So, I want you to imagine a scenario for a second. Imagine you are a Harvard-educated analyst. You've spent, gosh, let's say 80 grueling, meticulous hours researching a company's fundamentals.
Right, just totally in the weeds.
Exactly. Drinking stale coffee, staring at spreadsheets until your eyes bleed. You have the absolute best data available. You boast the highest IQ in your entire firm, and you have compiled every logical, mathematically sound reason why this one particular stock is absolutely destined to rise.
It's a sure thing.
Right. So you finally sit down at your terminal, you confidently execute a buy order, and the stock immediately crashes.
Just drops like a stone.
Instantly goes red.
Yeah.
Just a bloodbath.
So the question we're asking today is, who is wrong in that scenario? I mean, is it you with your flawless spreadsheets and your advanced degree? Or is it the market?
Most people would definitely say it's the market. They would. And to answer that, we are diving into Chapter 3 of Mark Douglas's seminal work on trading psychology today. The section is called The Truth About Being Right. And the mission of this deep dive is to really explore why having a sky-high academic intelligence can actually be, well, a massive liability when you're making decisions under pressure.
Yeah, it really can be.
We are going to look at why the human need to be right is arguably the single greatest threat to success in any fluid environment.
And, going back to that analyst sitting in the chair, staring at that red screen, they would instantly declare that the market is being irrational.
Oh, for sure.
They'll start arguing with the price action, listing all the incredibly well-researched reasons why the stock should be going up. But the harsh truth we are exploring today is that the market is never wrong. It simply is.
It just is.
Yeah. And to understand why incredibly smart people fail so spectacularly in these environments, we first need to completely redefine what a market actually is. We have to look at the mechanics of why our lifelong social conditioning completely fails us the moment we step into that arena.
Well, let's unpack the mechanics of that, because I think most of us, especially if we're analytically minded, we view the market as a giant, complex math puzzle.
Right.
We assume that if we just crunch enough numbers or read enough earnings reports, we will eventually solve it. The whole assumption is that superior logic yields superior results.
And that assumption is the trap. That's exactly where people get caught. We really need to strip away all the complex indicators, the financial news noise, the complicated algorithms, all of that, to look at the actual anatomy of a trade.
Okay, lay it out for us.
At its most fundamental, microscopic level, a financial market is just two human beings agreeing on a price. One wants to buy and one wants to sell.
Makes sense.
For a transaction to take place, both parties must agree on the present value of that asset at that exact millisecond. But, and this is the foundational paradox of the whole thing, they must have diametrically opposing beliefs about its future value.
Wait, okay, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this. So if I take what traders call a long position, meaning, I've bought an asset with the expectation that its value will increase over time, I fundamentally believe the current price is a bargain.
Yes.
But the person selling it to me must believe the exact opposite. They believe the current price is a peak, or at least high enough that they want to get rid of it.
That is the core dynamic right there. The buyer firmly believes the price will go up. The seller firmly believes the price will go down. So when you look at a chart, every single tick up or down is not a piece of a logical puzzle being solved.
Right.
It is a direct, immediate reflection of the collective beliefs of the people participating in that market at that exact moment in time.
So it's essentially a real-time global consensus of human belief.
Exactly. And belief is the absolute key word there. If you are in that long position, hoping the price will rise and the price suddenly drops, it simply means there is a stronger collective force of traders who believe the price should go lower.
There's no malice behind it?
None at all. There's no irrationality. It's just a shift in collective belief that happens to oppose your individual belief.
Okay, I hear the logic in that, but let me push back a little on behalf of you, the listener, because, well, this is where the friction happens in the real world. If I do my 80 hours of research, right, and my math is totally flawless and the company is posting record profits, the market can just ignore me.
Yep.
It can just completely disregard my objectively perfect analysis. That feels like stepping outside and trying to argue with gravity using a spreadsheet.
You are hitting on the exact tension that destroys most traders. You are trying to apply the rules of the social world to an environment that operates on an entirely different paradigm.
What do you mean by social rules?
Well, think about the social world we all grew up in. Being right is the ultimate currency. If you have the correct answer, you get an A in school. You gain status in your career. You win arguments in your relationships.
Yeah, that's true.
Society conditions us from birth to defend our opinions using logic, evidence, and debate. If you have a better argument, you win.
But the market is non-social.
Exactly. It doesn't host debates. It doesn't care about your GPA. Mark Douglas introduces this analogy of a river in the source material, and I think it reframes this entirely. Think about a river in nature. A river isn't wrong because it flows south when you really wanted to travel north. It simply flows.
Right. It's just water moving.
That river analogy perfectly captures the neutrality of the environment. The market behaves exactly like that water. It doesn't have a moral obligation to you. It doesn't have a logical obligation to respect your individual 80-hour analysis. It is simply a neutral, flowing force of collective belief.
So if it goes against you.
If that collective force moves against your position, you are wrong by definition. There is no negotiating with the river.
I want to challenge that comparison just for a second. I understand the metaphor, but a river follows the laws of physics, right?
Yeah.
Water moves to the lowest point due to gravity. It's predictable.
Yeah.
But the market is made of millions of people, and human behavior is notoriously unpredictable and emotional. How can we compare the chaos of human emotion to the physics of gravity?
That is a crucial distinction to make. You are absolutely correct that an individual human is unpredictable. But when you aggregate millions of individual human decisions, emotions, and beliefs into a single ecosystem, that collective mass begins to act like a fluid force of nature.
Like a current.
Exactly. It creates currents. It creates momentum. Consider a massive institutional hedge fund that suddenly needs to liquidate billions of dollars in assets today just to cover a margin call somewhere else.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They do not care about your 10-year earnings projection for a specific stock. They're simply selling to get cash. Their action creates a massive downward current. The collective belief in that moment is, we need liquidity, and the price drops.
So even if the fundamentals are great, it just gets swept away.
Right. It doesn't matter if the underlying company just cured a disease. The river of capital is flowing out.
That fundamentally shifts how I view the screen.
Yeah.
The current price doesn't reflect some latent future logic. It reflects present moment reality.
Right.
Which brings up a really difficult question. If the market is just a neutral river of capital, why do we take it so incredibly personally when the water flows the wrong way?
We really do take it personally.
We do. I mean, I don't go to a literal river, try to swim upstream, get pushed back, and then sit on the bank screaming that the water is being irrational. But in the market, we do exactly that. We yell at the screen.
This leads us directly into what Douglas calls the ego trap. And it is arguably the most dangerous psychological pitfall any decision maker can face. To understand why it hurts so much, we actually have to look at evolutionary psychology.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Our brains evolved in small tribes where social consensus meant survival. If you were wrong about a danger like, say, a predator in the bushes, you died. If you constantly lost arguments and alienated the tribe, you were exiled. And exile meant death. So we are biologically hardwired to view being wrong as a literal threat to our physical survival.
So for the Harvard analyst we talked about earlier, or really anyone who has built their life and career around being smart, their self-worth is inextricably tied to their intelligence. Their whole identity is built on the foundation of, I am the person who knows the right answer.
Yes. So when the market moves against them, their brain doesn't just process it as a simple financial miscalculation. The amygdala, the fear center of the brain, lights up as if they are being chased by a tiger.
Wow.
It processes the loss as a personal assault on their identity and their safety. It literally feels like the market is actively calling them stupid and threatening their place in the hierarchy.
And the human brain will do terrifying things to avoid feeling stupid or unsafe. I'll admit it to you right now, I have fallen into this trap completely.
Oh, we all have.
I have absolutely sat there after making a bad decision, watching a position go red, and instead of just cutting my losses, I start doom scrolling.
Yes, the desperation search.
Exactly. I will scour Twitter, Reddit, obscure financial blogs, looking for someone, anyone, who agrees with my original thesis. Just one article that says, no, the fundamentals are still strong, a massive bounce is coming.
Consider what is happening mechanically in your brain when you do that. You are experiencing massive cognitive dissonance. Reality is showing you one thing, you are losing money, but your identity demands another reality where you are smart and correct.
Right.
To resolve that intense psychological pain, your mind frantically searches for confirmation bias. You are building a psychological shield to hide from the pain of being wrong.
It's like I'm seeking safety in the herd instead of looking at objective reality. I'm trying to satisfy a deeply ingrained social need for validation, but I'm doing it in an environment that is entirely non-social.
The tragic irony of the ego trap is that while you are busy searching for all these external reasons why you should be right, the market is actively continuing to move against you.
You're just bleeding cash.
You are hemorrhaging real money just to protect your feelings. You are paying a massive financial tax simply to maintain the illusion of your own intelligence.
That is a very sobering way to frame it.
Yeah.
Are you saying our brains literally prioritize protecting our ego over protecting our bank accounts?
Without conscious intervention, absolutely. The pain of ego death is immediate and sharp, whereas the pain of a depleting bank account can often be rationalized or deferred until later.
Like, oh, it'll bounce back tomorrow.
Exactly. It's only a paper loss. The brain will routinely choose to lose money if it means it gets to hold on to the identity of being right.
So when I'm doom scrolling for confirmation, I'm not actually managing my risk, I'm just managing my anxiety.
That is the perfect way to articulate it. And because our ego actively sabotages our accounts in this way, every trader or investor eventually reaches a fundamental crossroads. They have to make an ultimate choice about their priorities. It comes down to an ultimatum.
Which is,
Do you want to be right or do you want to make money?
because in this environment, those two goals are mutually exclusive.
In trading, they are rarely compatible. A professional trader, someone who has actually survived and mastered this environment over decades, fundamentally does not care about being right. It is completely irrelevant to their process.
They just don't care at all.
Not at all. They only care about aligning themselves with the current flow of the market.
How do they actually achieve that, though? I mean, it's easy for us to sit here on microphones and say, just don't care about being right, but humans do care. We just established that we are biologically wired to care. So how does a professional overwrite their own biology?
They do it by completely redefining what a loss means. Amateurs view a loss as a failure, a mistake, and an indictment of their intelligence. Professionals reframe a loss merely as information.
Just data.
Just data. If they enter a position thinking the flow is moving north and the flow suddenly shifts south, they abandon their position immediately without a single moment of regret or self-criticism.
They don't take it personally because they never attached their ego to the trade in the first place.
Precisely. They view every small planned loss as a business expense. Think of a retail store owner, like maybe someone running a shoe store.
Okay.
They have to buy inventory. Sometimes an item doesn't sell. People just don't want the red shoes this season. The owner doesn't have an existential crisis about it.
Right. They don't scream at the customers for being irrational.
Exactly. They don't take it personally. They just discount the red shoes, clear them out, take a small loss, and buy something else. To the professional trader, a loss is just the cost of finding out which way the river is flowing today. It is a vital shield that protects them from catastrophic failure.
It sounds incredibly liberating to just follow the river and accept the small loss as data. But we're talking about turning off a lifetime of social conditioning. Society has trained us from kindergarten to defend our opinions to the bitter end. We can't just flip a switch in our brains and decide to become emotionless probability machines.
No, you can't just wish your evolutionary biology away. Turning off that lifelong conditioning requires an active, conscious intervention before every single decision.
Okay, so there's a process.
Yes, it requires a physical practice to interrupt the brain's default pathways. And this is where the source material provides a brilliant, highly actionable technique called ego separation.
Let's get into the mechanics of this actionable step. Walk us through what this actually looks like in practice.
The technique is something you must do before you ever click the mouse to enter a trade, or frankly, before you make any high-stakes decision in life. You sit at your desk, you look at your entry signal, and you must say out loud, physically speak the words, "This trade is a probability, not a reflection of my intelligence."
This trade is a probability, not a reflection of my intelligence.
Okay, but why is it so crucial to say it out loud? Because my instinct would just be to think it quietly to myself while staring at the screen.
Silent thoughts loop constantly in the default mode network of your brain. They easily get overwhelmed by the amygdala's fear response when anxiety spikes.
Oh, they just get drowned out. Exactly. But speaking requires motor function. It requires breath control. It engages Broca's area in the frontal lobe. By physically vocalizing the words, you create a neurological circuit breaker.
Oh, I see.
You force your brain to slow down, process the statement as an external auditory reality, and actively separate your self-worth from the outcome of the event.
I can totally see how that acts as a circuit breaker.
Let's walk through a micro scenario of what happens when a trader actually applies this. Let's say I've done the verbal exercise, I enter the trade. My heart rate is naturally going to elevate a bit because, well, there is real money on the line.
Sure, that's natural.
10 minutes later, the market shifts and my stop loss is triggered. And for you listening, a stop loss is just a predetermined price level you set in advance to automatically sell your position and prevent further losses if the trade goes against you. So the stop loss hits. I'm out of the trade and I've lost money. What is different about my reaction now? Because you performed the ego separation exercise, that triggered stop loss doesn't mean you are stupid. It doesn't mean your research was inherently flawed or that you are a failure.
Right.
It simply means that in this specific isolated instance, the probability didn't play out in your favor. You protected your capital, you gathered a valuable data point about the market's current direction, and you move on to the next probability.
I'm not defending my thesis to the death. I'm just acknowledging that the consensus of the moment shifted.
Yes. And the ultimate rule that comes with this practice is this. If you are ever in a trade and you find yourself staring at the screen, arguing with the price action, and mentally listing reasons why a trade should turn around, you have already lost.
Because the moment the internal debate starts, my objectivity is gone.
The ego trap has sprung. Your amygdala has hijacked your prefrontal cortex. When you recognize that happening, when you feel that tightening in your chest and the urge to open a new tab to find validation on social media, the rule is you must force yourself to close the trade immediately.
Just cut it right there.
You flatten your position, you step away from the screen, and you force yourself to accept the market's reality as the only reality.
Because the river's flow is the only truth that matters. My immaculate spreadsheet saying the water should flow north is completely irrelevant. The spreadsheet is the illusion. The water is the reality.
Admitting you are wrong to the market is the only way to survive it.
This has been an incredibly illuminating deep dive into the psychology of decision-making. Let's quickly synthesize the journey for you, the listener. We started by looking at the market not as a math problem to be solved, but as a neutral river of collective human belief.
Right, moving away from the math puzzle idea.
We explored how tying your intelligence to your trades, bringing that Harvard Analyst ego into a non-social environment, leads straight into the ego trap. We dissected the cognitive dissonance that forces you to hemorrhage money while doom-scrolling for validation, all just to prove to yourself that you are right.
We saw that it is the ultimate form of self-sabotage, driven by an evolutionary need for social consensus that simply does not belong in the fluid dynamics of capital.
So, I want you to reflect on your own life today. And this doesn't just apply to trading screens. Think about your career. Think about your relationships. Where is your desperate biological need to be right costing you the most?
That's a great question to ask.
What would actually happen if, just for today, you chose to align with the flow of reality instead of fighting the river with your logic and your pride?
And I will leave you with a final thought to mull over, building right on that real-world application. If our ego's intents need to be right, originally evolved to protect our status in social tribes and keep us safe among our peers, consider what happens to our real-life relationships when we start treating every argument like the market.
Oh, that's deep.
What if, instead of turning every disagreement with your partner or your colleague into a debate you absolutely have to win to protect your identity, you simply accepted that the other person's perspective is just a neutral river?
Just flow with it.
You don't have to agree with the river. You don't have to prove the river is wrong. You just observe the flow, let go of the need to be the smartest person in the room, and save your energy for the things that actually matter.
Put down the spreadsheet. Stop arguing with gravity and let the river flow. Thanks for diving deep with us today.